Today we will be showing you how to replace the chassis assembly for an HP MSL5000 and 6000, Overland NEO 2000 and 4000, and IBM 4560-SLX tape libraries. These libraries all share the same hardware configuration and menu structure. For these videos, we will be showing the replacement procedure using an HP MSL6000 library. However, the procedure is the same for the other OEMs and libraries as well. This replacement will require downtime and should be scheduled with the system administrator. This replacement procedure will apply to all versions of the HP MSL, Overland NEO, and IBM 4560 tape libraries. Please note, if you have two library chassis installed with a stack link elevator assembly between them, this video will not cover that procedure. We urge you to please stop here and open a ticket through the Rocket Plus customer portal. Prior to scheduling downtime, you will need to record all the settings manually so they can be set up on the replacement chassis. This includes, but is not limited to, network addressing, SCSI IDs, cleaning slots, etc. If your library is completely dead and the library will not initialize, you will need to set up the replacement chassis from scratch. If you purchase this chassis from the Rocket Platform website, it will not come with magazines installed. Therefore, the next thing you will need to do is ensure that your magazines with all of your tape cartridges are removed from the library. To do this, use the menu to unlock both magazine access doors. If this command fails, you will need to use the manual release for the access doors. To use the manual release, you will need to obtain a paperclip and straighten it out so that it can be pushed into the manual release hole. This hole is located just below the opening of each magazine access door and is noted by a small notch in the plastic as shown on screen. By inserting the paperclip into this hole, you will pop the magazine access door open and gain access to the magazine. Once you have access to the magazines, you can pull them straight back and out of the library and set them to the side. Before you close the magazine access doors, please take time to undo the two flathead captive screws that secure the library to the front of the rack. Otherwise, you will have to open the doors again later to do so. If any of your magazines are stuck in the library because the picker is caught on a tape in the magazine, leave the magazine in the library for now and close the door. We will address this later on in the video once we have the chassis removed from the rack. Once all magazines and tapes are removed and downtime is scheduled, it is now time to power off the library. To do this, hit the power button on the operator panel once and confirm the prompt asking if you are sure you want to power down the library. The library will now cycle down and power off, and the screen will go black. Now you can move to the rear of the library. First, you will need to flip the switches on all of the power supplies to the off position. Then you can unplug the power cables from all the power supplies. Then you will need to remove all cables from the rear of the library. This will include all data cables, and you should label them if necessary to ensure that they get reinstalled correctly on the replacement chassis. It will also include the Ethernet and fiber cables if you have a fiber bridge installed. If you do have a fiber bridge installed, you will also need to remove this from the library so it can be moved into the replacement. To do this, you will need to loosen the two captive Phillips screws that hold the fiber bridge lock levers shut. Once they are fully loosened, you can push back on both lock levers at the same time and the bridge will unseat itself from the library backplane. Then you can pull the bridge straight back and out of the library. Please note, you will not be moving the control card from the faulty chassis to the replacement. Doing so may inadvertently cause a catastrophic failure with the replacement chassis and void your warranty. The last thing you will need to do is remove your tape drives from the faulty chassis. To do this, undo the two captive thumb screws holding each drive in place in the library. These are much easier to undo using a medium-sized flathead screwdriver, as they do get rather tight. Once the screws are undone, you can pull each drive straight back and out of the library and set it to the side. Now you are ready to remove the chassis from the rack. Return to the front of the library. Then the library can be slid out of the rack on its rails until they lock. For the next part, we recommend a second person to help you, as these machines can be quite heavy. You will need to unlock the rails on both sides of the library chassis and then slide the chassis out from the rails and set it on a cart and move it out of your way. Now, if you had a magazine stuck on the robot inside the library, you will need to remove the top cover of the library chassis so that you can attempt to get your magazine free. To remove the top cover, first remove the two Phillips screws holding the front of the top cover down. Then, lift up on the front of the top cover and it will hinge upwards and you can pull it off and set it to the side. Looking down inside the library, you should be able to see the picker where it is hung up on your magazine. To release the picker fingers from the tape in the magazine, locate the orange belt on the rear of the picker and rotate it to move the fingers back into the hand mechanism, disengaging them from the tape in the magazine. Now you should be able to slide open the magazine access door and pull the magazine out completely and set it to the side. Replace the top cover and set the faulty chassis to the side. You are now ready to install the replacement. Ensure that you have a second person to help you. Lift the chassis up, slide it completely into the rack until it is secure in the rails. Then you can push the chassis completely in, secure the chassis into the rack using the 2 captive flathead screws. While you have the magazine access doors open, insert your magazines with your tapes into the library and then close the access doors and move to the rear. First, you will need to install all of your tape drives. To do this, take each drive and line it up carefully in the empty drive bay, ensuring that it is both flat and level so that the lower rails of the drive tray will slide into the grooves in the drive bay correctly. Push the drive in slowly until you feel it begin to make contact with the backplane. Then push firmly to seat the drive completely and tighten the thumb screws to secure the drive in the library. Once all drives are securely in the library, you will want to install your fiber bridge if you have one. There may be a cover plate over the card slot where the fiber bridge gets installed. If there is, you will need to unscrew it and remove it, and then install the fiber bridge. To install your fiber bridge, first ensure that the captive screws are undone and the lock levers are pushed outwards. Then line up the bridge with the empty slot rails in the rear of the library and push it in slowly until you feel it start to engage the backplane. Please be extremely careful and do not force the card in, as there are many fragile pins that engage this card and they are easily bent. Now you will need to install all of the cables going to the rear of the library and drives. This includes all data cables, Ethernet, fiber, and power. Once all cables are installed, you can flip the power supply switches to the on position and return to the front of the library. Tap the operator panel once to power the library on and allow it to initialize. During the initialization process, you may see a fault that shows an invalid configuration. This is completely normal for this procedure and will be fixed in the next step. Now, whether or not you have this fault, the first thing you will need to do is run a forced reconfiguration to sync the replacement chassis with your tape drives and magazines. To do this, go into the main menu and then go into the factory submenu, and when prompted, use the factory password of 56789. Then, back out one menu and then go into the maintenance submenu and use the force reconfiguration option. This will sync the chassis to your tape drives and magazines and reboot the library. Once the library reboots, it should now initialize without an error and you will be ready to start your configuration. Set up the chassis using the settings obtained from the faulty chassis prior to the replacement. Then you can reboot the library and ensure that all settings take effect. Now the administrator will need to check their host machine and ensure that they are able to see and use all of the drives. If you have any issues with the chassis replacement procedure or the replacement chassis does not fix your issues, please open a ticket through the Rocket Plus customer portal. Thanks for watching. This has been another video by the Top 10 USA Video Production Team. We look forward to sharing more content with you going forward, so please check out our YouTube channel and please subscribe so that you get notified whenever we release a new piece of content.